Hello, algebra. Today we're going to look at the next chunk of skills reviewing for the final. So skills 13 through 19. So skill 13 is something that we actually skipped. Skill 14, approximating square roots, we're not going to cover in this review. And skill 15, ordering real numbers, also we're not going to cover here. So picking up at 16, which is solving one and two-step equations. Skill 17, solving multi-step equations. 18 is solving equations with x on both sides of the equal sign. And skill 19, solving literal equations. So the four skills we're going to look at all focused on solving for x. So for the first one, skill 16, we're going to use opposite operations to cancel things out to try to get all of the x terms on one side of the equal sign and the number terms on the other side, so we find out what an x is equal to, what would balance it, if you remember the analogy of a balance scale. I'll try to get an x on one side and whatever it takes to balance it on the other side. So those principles are going to carry through all four of these skills we're looking at, using the opposite operations to cancel things out, to get the x's by themselves, and following the reverse order of operations, SADMEG. The reverse, because since we're doing opposite operations to cancel, I mean, it's like the reverse. Also, the other way we could think about this is that we're trying to unwrap a puzzle, unwrap an onion, so to speak. And since we're working backwards to figure out where this started from, we have to do the operations in reverse order since we're working through the process backwards. Skill 17, multi-step equations, we're going to see some additional steps involved. So distributing and combining like terms will show up there. With skill 18, we're going to move all of the x's to one side of the equal sign. You can use either side, left side or the right side, but we want to get all the x's together on one side, so we'll have to cancel them from one of the sides and get them all collected onto the other side. And then skill 19, literal equations, is where all of the numbers, or most of the numbers, have been replaced with variables. And since we'll have more than one variable in that equation, it's very important we pay attention to which variable the directions ask us to solve for, because otherwise we end up doing the wrong thing and we're like, oh, I solved it, but that wasn't what we're supposed to solve for. So let's start with question 1 on the assignment. Solve the equation 6x plus 1 equals negative 10 algebraically. And so we're going to use opposite operations following SADMEG, the reverse order of operations. And we don't have any distribution that shows up here, but maybe combining like terms. So I've copied the equation over here. And so I could, the x, let me get some highlighting going on here. So we're going to highlight the x. Here's our x. It's on the left side of the equal sign. So we're going to leave the x alone, and I want to cancel all of the other numbers that are on the left side of the equal sign. And so the two numbers which appear there are multiplication by 6 and adding 1. And so when I follow the reverse order of operations, adding is going to show up before multiplying. Of course, I'm going to be doing the opposite operations to cancel them, but the order is going to be the same. If I look at what's going to cancel them, subtraction will cancel the adding 1, and dividing is going to cancel that multiplying by 6. So I still need to do the subtraction first. So here goes. Let me get this cleaned up a little bit. Subtract 1, and I'll have to do the exact same thing on both sides of the equal sign, so this whole thing stays balanced. That will give me 6x. These cancel. And negative 10 minus 1 is going to be even more negative-er, right? I had a negative number and I subtracted more, so it's going to be even more negative-er. Okay. And then I'm going to divide to get the x by itself, divide on the other side of the equal sign also. These are going to cancel. A little bit more space. So the 6 is canceled here, but the x remains. So I've got x equals, and negative 11 does not divide evenly by 6. So I'm going to leave my answer as a fraction. Negative 11 sixths. Kind of an ugly answer, but sometimes that's what we end up with. So you'll be better off leaving your answer in fraction form. Most of the problems that we have in WAMAP are going to ask you specifically to leave your answer in fraction form. If you get a fraction, don't change it to decimal. So -11/6. Okay, question 2. We're looking at the same thing, some more steps involved this time, but still solving for x. And so our equation 6x plus 16 minus 5x equals 2. And I've got that written over here. So this time I got multiple steps. Distribution doesn't show up, but combining like terms will. So on the left side of the equal sign, I've got x showing up in 2 different spots. I've got 6 x's, and then I've got minus 5 x's. So I'm going to take those 2 x's and combine them since they are like terms. Sometimes people like to rewrite the equation so that the x terms are next to one another. You can do that if you want. I'm just going to use some arrows to graphically indicate what's going on here. So I'm going to combine these two since they're on the same side of the equal sign. If they're on opposite sides of the equal sign, that's a different story. But they're on the same side. So 6x minus 5x gives me 1x, and then that plus 16 carries down, and it equals 2. All right, so 1x, that's the same thing as just x. Normally we don't write ones. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this 1 just to avoid any confusion later on. And now to get the x by itself, I'll need to do the opposite operation to cancel that 16. Do the same thing on the other side of the equal sign. And then this x comes down, the 16s are canceled, equals 2 minus 16 gives me -14. So final answer, x equals -14. In the answer box, I didn't point this out last time, but the answer box already got an x equals, so all I need to do is just enter that solution. Okay, question 3 is again a multiple step equation. As it turns out, we got a pretty similar problem. 6x minus 18 minus 5x equals -10. Like a lot of the numbers here are exactly the same. Well, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to combine the 6x and the minus 5x. So that's going to give me 1x, and I don't need that 1. I'll erase that in a minute, but 1x for now. The -18 comes down. That -5x I combined, so I'm not going to rewrite that, equals -10. And like I said, I will erase that 1 right now. I don't need to say 1x. If I just write a single x, it means 1. And so my next step is going to be to do the opposite operation to cancel that 18. So these cancel. The x is going to come down. 18s have canceled, equals, and then -10 plus 18 is going to give me a result of 8. So there's my solution. X equals 8. All right, question 4. So now we get x on both sides of the equal sign. I've kept skill 16 just because I want to see those notes, the opposite operations and SADMAG. I'm still using that stuff, even though we're looking at skill 18. So our goal, first of all, is to move all the x's to one side of the equal sign. Since I can see I have an x on both the left side of the equal sign and the right side. So 5x minus 6 equals 7x plus 2. The directions ask me to solve for x. All right, so you could choose to move your x's together on either the left side of the equal sign or the right side of the equal sign. Personally, I would rather not have negative numbers. So if I were to move everything to the left side, I would have to cancel the 7x by subtracting. And then if I look ahead a step, that would give me 5x minus 7x, which would give me a negative number. Totally doable, but I'd prefer to avoid it if possible. So I'm going to cancel the 5x instead. Now you remember, hopefully from our earlier lessons on this, that there are different types of numbers. I call them all sorts of different things: packs of gum and individual sticks of gum, yard waste bags of leaves, and like scoopers of leaves and individual leaves. There's different kinds of numbers in the equation, right? So we need to pay attention to like terms. We need to line up the x's with the x's and not accidentally start combining unlike terms. So x's are different than numbers, and we're just going to keep stuff lined up. So when I'm subtracting 5x on the left side, I need to make sure that that is subtracting from the x term on the right side of the equal sign. Okay, so the 5x is canceled. The minus sign is now, I'm going to read that as a negative. That's still there attached to the 6. So negative 6 equals. And when I subtract 7x minus 5x, it gives me 2x. And then that plus 2 comes down. Okay, next I am going to subtract this 2 so that I can get my x isolated. So these will cancel. And what I will be left with, I'll start at the left side here. Negative 6 minus 2 is going to be negative 8. Equal sign comes down, 2x. And then lastly, I will need to divide by 2 to cancel that 2 that's being multiplied onto the x. And I'm going to divide by 2 on this side of the equal sign also. So those 2's will cancel. The x is still going to be there. The 2 canceled off of the x, and now it's just a single x. Equal sign. Sorry, I'm working backwards from right to left here. Negative 8 divided by 2 is going to give me negative 4. So there is my solution, negative 4. Now this problem doesn't have the x equals in front of the answer blank, but the directions have asked me to solve for x. So I'm just going to enter my solution, not x equals. All right, question 5. We got another equation where x is on both sides of the equal sign. So I'm going to do the same process. This time, I'm going to cancel this 3x because when I subtract the 3x on the left-hand side, 7x minus 3x, I'm going to get a positive answer. And I like positive answers. It's a little bit easier to work with. So these will cancel, but 7x minus 3x will give me 4x. And I'm going to bring all the rest of these terms down. The plus 7 is unchanged. Equal sign still there. And that negative 1 at the end still there. Next step, trying to get this x by itself. So I'll have to subtract the 7. My order of operations up here, SADMEG says I got to subtract before dividing. So I will have to divide that 4 eventually, but subtraction happens first. Subtract 7 on the other side of the equal sign to keep this all balanced. These 7's are going to cancel. That 4x comes down. The 7's are gone. The equal sign's still here. Negative 1 minus 7 is going to be negative 8. A little bit more space so I can finish up. Lastly, divide by 4. These 4's cancel. The x still there. Equals, and negative 8 divided by 4 is negative 2. There's my solution. All right, so we got some inconsistent formatting in the problems. This one's got the x equals in front of the answer box. It doesn't make any difference what I'm going to write. I just need to enter the solution. It's negative 2. Okay, last problem. So I've pulled all 3 of these skills here for our notes. But technically, the problem has x on both sides of the equal sign, so it would fall into the skill 18 group. But we need all of those notes. So we'll still be using opposite operations and following SADMEG to get our order. We will need to distribute in this problem. We'll have to combine like terms. And our goal here still is to move all of the x's to one side of the equal sign. So the directions ask us to solve this equation for x. It's pretty typical. 9 times the group x plus 2. And then plus 3 equals negative 4 times the group x minus 1. And then subtract 9. Okay, well, I'm going to start by distributing to get rid of the parentheses. So I'll distribute separately, but on both sides of the equal sign, I have distribution. So I'm just going to write them all down at the same time and save myself a little bit of space on the page. So I'm going to multiply this 9 onto the x. That's going to give me 9x. I'm going to multiply the 9 onto that 2. That's going to give me 18. This plus 3 is not part of the group. I'm not going to multiply the 9 onto that. I'm just going to bring that plus 3 down to the next line. The equal sign comes down. And now I need to multiply this negative 4 onto all of the terms inside this group. So negative 4 times x, negative 4x, and negative 4 times negative 1. A negative times a negative will give me a positive. 4 times 1 is 4, so positive 4. And then the minus 9 at the end, that is not part of the group. Don't multiply the negative 4 onto that. Just bring it down to the next line. Okay, at this point, I have x on both sides of the equal sign. So there's some choices. I actually had some other choices of what I could have done first. I think this is the best option for us, but there were some other things we could have done. At this point, we still have some choices to make. I do have some like terms on each side of the equal sign, and so I think probably the easiest thing to do is we want to keep our equation as simple as possible, and I think we want to clean up our like terms. So on the left side of the equal sign, I have a constant, a number term, and I have another constant. I can combine those. The positive 18 plus 3, I can combine that. And on the right-hand side of the equal sign, I also have a couple of constants. So we'll combine the positive 4 and that negative 9 with each other. Okay, so really I'm working separately. These two yellow highlighted terms that are on the left side of the equal sign, I will combine with each other. That's totally separate from any of the other things I'm doing. I'm going to do basically 2 steps at the same time just to save myself some writing. So this 9x is going to come down, and then I will combine the positive 18 plus 3 to get positive 21 equals. And on the other side of the equal sign, that negative 4x just comes down. I'm not doing anything to it yet. And these two magenta highlighted terms, the positive 4 and the minus 9, I'm going to combine those two together. So that will, 4 minus 9 will give me negative 5. Okay, so now the equation looks quite a bit less messy. This is a lot less daunting. We've done only 2 steps. Well, I wrote down 2 steps, but really I did 2 steps per step. So it's like I've done 4 things really. And now we've got it to the point where the last couple of problems started from. So I have x on both sides of the equal sign. I want to work to get the x's collected onto one side. In this case, I'm going to add the 4x. I'm going to do the opposite operation to cancel the negative 4x. And when I do that, same thing over here on the other side of the equal sign. So these 4x's are going to cancel. And let's start from the left side. 9x plus 4x is 13. X, bring down that plus 21, bring down the equal sign. 4x's are gone. So just the minus 5 is left over here. Next step, trying to get the x by itself. So we'll need to divide by 13 and subtract 21. Those are the opposite operations to get rid of these numbers so that I'll have x by itself. And our reverse order of operations, SADMEG, says I need to subtract the 21 first before moving on to division. So these are going to cancel. And let's switch colors here. So 13x is going to come down here. The 21s are gone. The equal sign comes down. Negative 5 minus 21, that is negative 26. And now my last step, as I just mentioned, is to divide by 13. So divide by 13 on both sides of equal sign. These are going to cancel, leaving me 1x. So I'll just write x equals, and over here, negative 26 divided by 13 is going to give me negative 2. So there's my solution, negative 2. I'm going to scroll up and write that into my answer box. All right, there it is. Good luck.